I wonder what went wrong. I feel like I linger between the words to say the words you remember. Now we're here to take control over your body and over your soul. We're gonna take back everything and lose it all, lose it all, lose it all. Feel it in your arms, feel it in your legs, feel it on your fingertips and feel it in your head. Just let your body go, just let your body go, just let your body go and move to the rhythm. Now we will go back home today, until the very last hour. We still got a few more days to slay, it's gonna get so much louder. Now we're here to take control over your body and over your soul. We're gonna take back everything and lose it all, lose it all, lose it all. Feel it in your arms, feel it in your legs, feel it on your fingertips and feel it in your head. Just let your body go, just let your body go, just let your body go and move to the rhythm. I wonder what went wrong today, Why do I feel like I linger between the words to say the words you remember.
Welcome to a Sunday night bonus show of Dylan Lasagna Live. I am your host, Dylan Lasagna, and as you can see, I got myself a little something for my mic, for my little mic here. It's a little rig. It's like a little little a mic arm. It's now I can do whatever the heck I want with it. In regards to moving it around, so I don't have to use this little thing. I don't know if it'll help me. I don't know if it'll really help me in regards to the production of the show, but at least the podcast will look a little more semi-professional. But anyway, welcome to a Sunday night bonus show of Dylan Lasagna Live. I am obviously your host, Dylan Lasagna. Sorry for the lateness because I had to do some last minute show prep. And as always, make sure you're watching this live, pressing the like button, sharing this with your friends and families on this beautiful and hot here on the West Coast Sunday night. And if you're not already, make sure you're subscribed. What are you waiting for? You're missing out on not only these live streams, but the variety content that is here on this channel. And make sure you got those notifications on, so you'll never miss out on the crazy things that I post here on the channel, as well as the stuff I post on the community tab here on my channel. So anyway, let's get right into this. Let me know in the chat how my sound is working, and let me know if there are issues with the stream right now. The internet right now is kind of it's kind of hit or miss right now because I guess everyone's using it in my house right now, including myself. But nonetheless, I digress. Today, I kind of wanted to do this bonus show tonight because last night there was a pay-per-view for All Elite Wrestling called Double or Nothing. It was the second rendition of the pay-per-view, and initially I wasn't going to do a reactions to Double or Nothing, but you know what? I actually checked out Double or Nothing yesterday, and I gotta say, you know what? We had a really shitty week, whatever. we had a really shitty week of events, and WWE hasn't been doing that well in regards to like overall production value. Raw and SmackDown has been they're outside of Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre and Mandy Rose and Otis. There hasn't been much to get excited about with the main roster WWE. Even NXT is suffering like bad. It's like at this point you can't even blame the whole Wednesday night jack off wars between AEW and NXT at this point. I feel like at this point, even if it was the case, I feel like NXT should move to another night. But it's like I feel like whatever NXT is doing now at this point is just a reactionary move to AEW, which is hurting them more than doing them good. Outside of what I said on Friday's show with Karrion Kross, Tommaso Ciampa, the new Johnny Gargano, and Candice LeRae, Rhea Ripley, Io Shirai, and I don't know who else I mentioned, but outside of those people I just mentioned, NXT doesn't mean a thing. It's even NXT is suffering. So WWE as a whole is not doing good. They're not doing good right now. So we needed a reprieve not just from that, but from the tragedies that happened this week in wrestling. You know, we had the unfortunate passing of Shad Gaspard, who passed away sacrificing his life to save his son on last Sunday, when he and his son were at the beach in Southern California, where they were both caught in a riptide, but he told the lifeguards before he was taken away by a riptide to save his son first and before they saved him. But they saved his son, but they weren't able to save him, and then the rest is unfortunate news from there. So that happened, and my thoughts and prayers still go to Shad's family. And then the news just kept on hitting this week, and the news that came in Friday night and went into Saturday is just really saddening, And I was gonna share this at the end of the show, but it's like throughout Double or Nothing they were talking about, and you know what? I need to talk about it here and right now. And it's like I need to get this across now. So I didn't there was another wrestler that tragically passed away way too soon, might I add, on Friday night, and okay, I need to collect myself here. So I didn't know who this person was. I just saw this on my Twitter feed. So, her name is Hana Kimura. She was I'm trying to get all the details here. She was a female wrestler for Stardom, which is a Japanese pro wrestling women's wrestling company. She was also a reality TV star on the show Terrace House, where they document all the happenings with two celebrities, but instead of the traditional Kardashian kind of stuff, this kind of show actually shows the personal side of these celebrities. And what happened was she was getting cyberbullied for an incident that happened on this show on an episode that was filmed in early January of this year, where I'm not gonna go into those details out of respect, and that sparked the whole situation where she was cyberbullied, and then on Friday, on her social medias, she shared a suicide note on photos of self-harm on both her Twitter and her Instagram. And again, I'm not going to share those either because I 100% disavow it, and I'm not, out of respect to her and her family, I will not share those at all. And following those posts, and the news came out that she passed away from suicide at age 22. I don't know too much about this person, but from the accounts of people that did know her, Asuka knew her, Asuka worked with her. She seemed like this bubbly, fun-loving person. As a person, she had a great personality. As a wrestler, she since she started her career in 2005, she's regarded as a rising star in the Japanese pro wrestling scene. But it's just a real shame that one small incident that happened on a reality TV, on a TV show, could lead to a bunch of people pushing her to a point, I mean, we do and say a lot of things online or in out and offline, but bullying and harassment is something I do not condone, people. It's I 100% disavow it. Oh, hold on. I am not connected. There we go. All right, now I'm back. All right, so as I was saying, yeah, it's it's like I disavow I disavow bullying and harassment online. It's like we can talk, like, especially in the wrestling community, we can talk about we can be critical of professional wrestling. Keep it to the shows. Keep it to creative. Keep it to booking. Keep it to the wrestlers' ability in the ring and their characters. Don't take it to the next level. Don't take it to a personal level. Don't take it to that point where you pushed it too far and shit like this happens. I'm extremely disappointed with this side of the community. This Excalibur put it perfectly at Double or Nothing when they did the tribute. This passing was tragic, but what led to it was senseless and stupid. It's like, shame on the community, like shame on on that side. I'm not saying the entire wrestling community, but the specific side that pushed Hana Kimura to do what she did, like to take her life. Excalibur also mentioned social media is designed to bring us together, but Hana's passing did the opposite, and we need to be nicer together. And look, I get the world's a cruel, dark place. Like it can't always be sunshine and rainbows, but we have to be better people. We have to be better. And at the end of the day, it's professional wrestling. It's not the real world. It's like they're here to provide us a safe space, especially during this pandemic. These wrestlers are human beings off camera. They're putting our ass on the line each and every night, and each and every day they go out and perform. And outside of the sport, outside of shows, they're just regular human beings, just like you, just like me, just like everyone else out there. And that side of the community, they can't just sit there and think that bullying and harassing someone to the point where this kind of stuff happens. We need to do better. We all need to do better. And my thoughts and prayers go to Kimura's family during this really depressing time. And this news is just disappointing. I can't really express how much I'm angered, but I'm just disgusted by it. No words. But I know that was kind of these tragic news has been kind of a downer this past week, but it's I just don't know what else to say about it. My thoughts and prayers go out to these families that have lost their loved ones during this time. But let's talk about AEW. Let's talk about AEW. Let's bring some closure. Let's bring some happiness back into the show after a little after we got the sadness out of the way. So, Double or Nothing. It happened yesterday. Again, it was supposed to be in Vegas, but as we all know, because of the coronavirus pandemic, that didn't happen. And now we put it in Jacksonville, where it took place in Daly's Palace, and one of the matches took place in the actual stadium, the Jacksonville Jaguar Stadium. I managed to catch most of the matches. The only match that I didn't get to see in full was before tonight's podcast. Before was the AEW World Championship. I did get to see the ending of the match. I will go over that. But I did want to see the full match, but I didn't. I just never got a chance to because I was just so busy with other some other unrelated YouTube stuff, to the unrelated channel stuff. But we're gonna keep going. We're gonna keep pushing through this podcast, and again, make sure you hit that like button and make sure you get some more people in here. Let's keep it rolling, people. Let's keep it rolling. But anyway, we start AEW Double or Nothing 2020 with the buy-in pre-show. Private Party goes up against Best Friends for the AEW World Tag Team Championship number 1 contenders match. So the winner will face Kenny Omega and Adam Page down the line in a World Tag Team title match. So there were a couple things that happened here that caught my eye. Again, I'm not going to go over every single detail that happened in this match. So I'm just going to go over my personal takeaways and then from this match, and then go over my thoughts and opinions on this match in the end. This is how it's going to go for each and every match. So Private Party and Best Friends, they traded slices, breads, and clotheslines, which knocked them both down temporarily. Then Private Party hits a sloppy sling blade. Not a sloppy sling blade. A sloppy silly string. So it was like a double team maneuver, where I think it was Isaiah Cassidy or Mark Quinn. He baited Trent Beretta into one of the members of Private Party, and I think it was Isaiah Cassidy. He rebounded into Mark Quinn and then hit I think it was like kind of like a bulldog kind of move, but it was kind of sloppy that Trent Beretta buckled his knee a bit. But yeah, it didn't look good. That move didn't look good. So Isaiah Cassidy also Irish whipped Beretta into the steel barricade, only for Beretta to run back at him with a spear. Best Friends later hit an avalanche superplex, and then later in the match, Isaiah Cassidy got a hot tag run past the halfway point in the match, taking out Best Friends and pinning Trent Beretta for a 2. Best Friends later hit a soul food combination on Isaiah Cassidy before giving the traditional zoom out hug. You know, the zoom out hug where Best Friends hug and then the camera pans out. Yeah. So then we also got a spot where Isaiah Cassidy trapped Trent Beretta with his knees while Mark Quinn hit a shooting star press onto Beretta's back, and then that caused some discomfort onto both Beretta and Cassidy. Then Private Party hit the G9 in a tribute to Crime Time, which Taz acknowledged. But the end of the match came where Chuck Taylor stopped Mark Quinn from winning the match, and Best Friends got the win with their finisher on Mark Quinn to become the number 1 contenders for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. So it was a good warm-up match. It was a good appetizer for the main show. So I mean, the Best Friends were heavily featured on Dynamite ever since the quarantine started, and all I can say is they were the right ones to win it, and now they get a shot at the World Tag Team Champions in Omega and Page. So now we get into the main card. We get into the main meat of the show. It starts off with this very nice opening promo from a good majority of the AEW roster, where they're thanking frontline workers who are working during the COVID-19 pandemic, and they have a graphic of in memoriam graphic of Shad Gaspard and Hana Kimura. And then we get into the opening casino ladder match for a future AEW World Championship match. Your participants for this match were Darby Allin, Colt Cabana, Orange Cassidy, SCUs, Scorpio Sky, and Freaky Kazarian, Kip Sabian, Luchasaurus, Joey Janela, and a participant that remained a mystery going into Saturday night. The rules of this ladder match were a hybrid of a ladder match and a Royal Rumble. Two competitors started the match, and then every 2 minutes a new competitor entered. So the concept of the match itself, I kind of digged it. Now, I'm going to go into my match analysis later, because I have some thoughts about this match in particular. So let's go into some of the highlights. We're going to break it down by entry here. But first, some of the competitors gave some pre-match promos, like Orange Cassidy, who already looked like he had no clue what he was supposed to do. He even asked best friends, who is hanging above the ring? I'm like, come on, man. You can't make this stuff up. And best friends really had to tell him what is at stake. Not who, what. But anyway, both members of SCU started the match. I kind of like that. It kind of created tension, a little bit, not too much. Tension between Kazarian and Sky. So pretty much like all they were doing for the first 2 minutes was teasing getting a ladder and pretty much participating in the exhibition of sorts before the next competitor came out, which was Kip Sabian. But he didn't come alone. Jimmy Havoc attacked SCU from behind with a ladder and then pretty much turned the next 2 minutes into a tag team match. But before the next competitor came out, Jimmy Havoc got suplexed onto a ladder. So Darby Allin was next, and this is where things got kind of chaotic from here. Because the more participants you have, the more chaotic it gets, and sometimes that can be good and bad at the same time. So Darby Allin came out, and he pretty much took out everyone in the span of 10 seconds. The moment he came out. However, I feel like he got too cocky, too anxious, and I feel like that would end up costing him big, like right away. Because what he would do next was he would set up a ladder bridge, he would set up a ladder bridge on the steel barricade and the ring canvas, on the ring apron, and he was trying to find someone to put it onto. Kazarian happened to be nearby. He threw a skateboard at Kazarian, so he knocked him out, and this was his mistake here. He didn't put Kazarian on the ladder. He put half of his body on the ladder. And then Darby Allin proceeded to climb up the ladder with his skateboard, and you know what? Let's YOLO it. Let's YOLO our chances at winning this match. And he jumped off the 20-foot ladder with his skateboard to put Kazarian through the ladder bridge. Actually, he didn't, because Kazarian got out of the way, and Darby Allin pretty much broke his knees. Yep, Darby Allin broke his knees because he missed Kazarian by a long shot. And somehow the skateboard didn't break from the fall as well. So Darby Allin was pretty much taken out of the match before the mystery competitor got in, but we'll get into that later. So Orange Cassidy was the next one to come in, and let's just say, yeah, he was on some kind of next level drugs, but either that or he's just his usual freshly squeezed. Right away, you know that he was on some next level shit because he came to the announcer's desk and he asked what he was supposed to do. When in the pre-match promo, Best Friends literally explained to him what he was supposed to do. Excalibur mentioned that Tony Schiavone explained the rules to him exactly 200 times. Yeah, they literally said that 200 times. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding with you. So, Orange Cassidy took all the time in the world. He literally took up almost all of the 2 minutes to get his ass in the ring. And because he was so goddamn lazy, he tried winning the match in a variety of ways. So, what he did first was he tried reaching for the poker chip without a ladder. Then he tried reaching for the poker chip while standing on the ladder. Only the ladder was not standing. It was grounded. It was freaking grounded on the floor. It was not set up. You can't make this up. And lastly, he picked up the ladder, but he didn't set it up. And because of that, it fell. And JR put it perfectly. Cassidy never worked at Home Depot in his life. And yeah, even then, he couldn't set up a ladder. So, Colt Cabana comes out. He sees Orange Cassidy is struggling. And he looked like he was going to help Orange Cassidy. But instead, he pushes him out of the ring. And he tries to go for the poker chip. But he is instead pushed off the ladder by SCU. But and his fingers are trapped on the folding ladder. And then Kip Sabian gets thrown in that same ladder by SCU. And then, before the next competitor comes out, Orange Cassidy takes out SCU with his usual lazy kicks. And then, when SCU tried to clothesline him, Orange Cassidy drop kicks them before hitting a suicide dive onto SCU outside the ring before they eventually regained control on him. So Joey Janela was the next one in, and he didn't waste time here. He's like, he didn't even get a proper ring announcement. I mean, why does he need one? Because like why did he even need one? He hasn't even been on Dynamite for like the past month or past 5 months. But anyway, Joey Janela enters. He immediately dives onto SCU and Orange Cassidy. Then he goes after Jimmy Havoc and Colt Cabana. But that was pretty much his offense there. And pretty much after that, after the 2 minutes, nothing else happens. And Luchasaurus enters the match prior to the mystery entrant coming in. So that was Luchasaurus was the last known entrant prior to the last person coming in. So Luchasaurus comes in, guns a-blazing, powerbombing Kip Sabian onto everyone except Kazarian, because, Kazarian always ends up lucky anyway. So Kazarian ends up getting chokeslammed onto a ladder, but somehow bounces up and gets getting hit with another chokeslam. Darby Allin re-enters the match somehow, some way, even though his knees are freaking dead as hell. And somehow managed to hit a sunset flip powerbomb onto Luchasaurus. And he tried to go for the poker chip, but his injured leg that he suffered from the failed ladder spot. That kept slowing him down. And that would eventually cost him again because the final entrant in this ladder match was Taz? No. It was Brian Cage. Wait, who? Who's Brian Cage? Who is Brian Cage? Brian Cage is an American professional wrestler and bodybuilder. Brian Cage appeared on Lucha Libre AAA Worldwide and also appeared on Impact Wrestling, where he is a former Impact World Champion and former X Division champion. So he was on TNA and Lucha Libre. Might have to go watch some film on this guy. So this Brian Cage guy, he's a wrestler that I have no idea who he is. And I bet a lot of you don't, outside of the hardcore wrestling community. So I have no clue who this guy is. So he immediately makes his presence felt. He tears a ladder in half, and did I mention that he's accompanied by Taz? So he tears a ladder in half, and then he starts stealing finishers from Brock Lesnar to Kevin Owens. He F5s Darby Allin. He gives Kip Sabian the Pop-Tart Powerbomb. And then he takes Scorpio Sky and Joey Janela to Suplex City with a German and Springboard Release Suplex, respectively. And, man, Brian Cage is stealing all the WWE moves. I'm just kidding. I'm just playing. And at one point, you even heard Joey Janela scream, "Fucking motherfucker!" But anyway, so Brian Cage was trying to get the poker chip, but Orange Cassidy tried to stop him with a sleeper hold, but Brian Cage just climbed up anyway because Orange Cassidy's lazy as fuck. So Cage is trying to climb up the cage with Orange Cassidy, and eventually all the competitors come in, drag him down, and start beating him down. SCU hits Cage with the ladders to send him out of the ring, and everyone literally starts burying him. They bury him with the ladders, the steel barricade, and the large poker chip. Yeah, I'm not kidding. The large poker chip. That's not involved in the ladder match. They caged Brian Cage. Thank you, Tony Schiavone. So the rest of the match. So everyone went back to fighting each other, and this is where Orange Cassidy finally got red hot. It was like this when he fought Pac at Revolution. So Orange Cassidy finally got red hot. He took out Kazarian with a Superman elbow. He knocked Kip Sabian onto a corner ladder, as well as Penelope. Penelope. I can't pronounce this. Penelope Ford onto Sabian. That spot right there with Penelope Ford would play a role into her match with Chris Statlander later in the night. So Orange Cassidy's momentum stalled when Luchasaurus got involved. Bear in mind, Orange Cassidy actually tried to chokeslam Luchasaurus, but what the fuck, man? You really expect you're gonna be able to chokeslam Luchasaurus, Cassidy, Orange? Come on, man. So Luchasaurus, with the help of Marco Stunt, did a chokeslam onto Orange Cassidy. Joey Janela comes in and hits a Death Valley driver onto Orange Cassidy, went on top of the still buried Brian Cage. Damn. So another interesting point that I want to mention here is SCU. They actually managed to make it to the top of the ladder, but once they got up there, they were kind of at an impasse. They were deciding, should we fight or should we try to go for the poker chip, and be like co-contenders? They decided to fight, and they fought until Luchasaurus tossed them off the ladder. So Luchasaurus was the only one in the ring, and then out of nowhere, Brian Cage literally unearthed out of the pile, and had a stare down with Luchasaurus, and they went into this really cool sequence. They were doing these cool moves. Brian Cage reversed a choke slam from Luchasaurus, and Cage ended up powerbombing Luchasaurus, onto a ladder. And in one last-ditch effort, Darby Allin slapped Brian Cage, but you know what happens when you slap people. You piss them off, and you know what happens to people when they get pissed off. You know what happens. They get pissed, and you get shit on for your troubles. So Darby Allin got shit on for his last ditch effort, and Brian Cage delivered it's kind of like a pile driver, what they called the drill claw, and then Taz went on to instruct Cage to finish Darby Allin, where he put Darby Allin onto a small ladder and just threw him ringside. So after that, Brian Cage climbed up the ladder to grab the poker chip and win a future AEW World Title match. By the way, his debut match. Excuse me. So this was not a bad opening match, but you know the problem with these kind of matches when there's a lot of people in it gets too chaotic, and kind of spot heavy. You know, there's just too much to keep an eye on. But the biggest thing for me here is this Brian Cage guy. It's his debut, and how he debuted. He's apparently like this dominant force like Lance Archer, but the difference here is that the man accompanying him, Taz, the announcers went on to explain that Darby Allin turned down Taz's services on multiple occasions on Dynamite, and Taz in return got Brian Cage to get back at Darby Allin, and so I don't know what happens from here. Maybe Taz is done, like, as the commentator for the buy-ins and for AEW Dark, and he's a full-on manager for this Brian Cage guy. We'll see. It's going to be interesting to see how they develop this relationship between Taz and Brian Cage. And speaking of Brian Cage, I hope they do some kind of video promo for this guy, because I would like to know some more about him. The thing about these promos, AEW has been doing a little better with wrestler profiles as of late, and they need to keep doing that. With Brian Cage, because I would love to know more about why I should care about him. What's his past? What's his wrestling past? I know getting footage from companies like Impact or Lucha Libre can be tough, but I just use what you can have, so I can learn more of his wrestling past and why I should care about him. So there you go. Brian Cage is the winner of the Casino not the Battle Royale. I keep thinking of last year's Double or Nothing, the Casino ladder match, and now he goes on to face the winner of tonight's World Championship match. Of Saturday night's. Whoever won the AEW World Championship match from Double or Nothing. Next, we got MJF versus Jungle Boy. I kind of forgot why this match was happening exactly, but I guess it was just another reason for MJF to claim that he's better than the entire AEW roster. But it's whatever. It was whatever. So there are a couple things to point out here. So a couple of highlights that I want to mention. I'm just checking the live chat, the live viewership right now. All right. So like this was mostly like about not just athleticism but storytelling throughout this match. Early on in the match, MJF faked a knee injury, and Aubrey Edwards and the ringside doctor went on to check on him. And Aubrey Edwards had to restrain Jungle Boy from trying to attack MJF to get him back in the match. But when Jungle Boy's back was turned in the corner, MJF got right back up. His knee was fine, clearly, and attacked Jungle Boy to control the match back. Later on in the match, MJF started to target Jungle Boy's arm, starting with an arm whip into the corner. Jungle Boy later regained control of the match, despite only wrestling with one arm. But that would only be brief because MJF would later retake control of the match. So once things got onto the outside of the ring, MJF decided to be a smart ass to the essential crowd at ringside. And that decision would prove costly for MJF because that allowed Jungle Boy to hit 3 straight top rope moves, like top rope outside. Top rope suicidas, as like Excalibur loves to say it. And once they got back in the ring, a tornado DDT for a 2 count. Then MJF tried to lock in his salting the earth armbar on Jungle Boy, but Jungle Boy got out of it, and then they proceeded to go into a stare down. That stare down went into a chop down. MJF hit another chop on Jungle Boy's injured arm, but Jungle Boy countered into a series of chops leading into a double chop. Jungle Boy then hit a Canadian Destroyer. Of course, you got to have one of those every now and then, which MJF turned into a super kick for a 2 count. So it was a nice sequence in the mid-match. So Jungle Boy tried for a crossface, but his injured arm prevented him from gripping the hold further. So there's like literally no arm strength for Jungle Boy to keep applying the hold. Then later in the match, once they were on the ring apron, Jungle Boy did a reverse hurricanrana onto MJF on the ring apron. That ended up that actually resulted in MJF's head hitting the edge of the ring apron, and once he landed on the floor, he is staring at stars. And I thought he had a concussion there. But anyway, Jungle Boy dragged him back into the ring with one arm, and he tried to win, because he wanted to win the match cleanly. And as Jungle Boy was trying to top rope move, MJF held onto Aubrey Edwards' leg, which caused her to inadvertently take down Jungle Boy off the turnbuckle. So nonetheless, Jungle Boy eventually landed a avalanche Liger bomb for a 2 count. But the finish of the match involved both men trading pin attempts, including both men trying to win by holding the tights. But MJF ended up winning the match on a modified European clutch. So MJF is your winner of that match. And I will say, for a match that didn't have too much story into it, there was actually a lot of story as the match progressed. Like there was Jungle Boy's arm injury affecting him in almost every aspect. It was clear that his offense slowed down to a degree because of the arm injury, him selling the arm, and he couldn't pin MJF after every big move because of the arm, because of his sold arm injury. And once even if he did pin him, it's like he couldn't clutch him. He couldn't clutch him for a 3. And then of course MJF trash talking as usual. Before it's like he was on the receiving end of seeing stars every time, and like near the end, it's like the trash talking ended up resulting in having his back giving out. All of which forced him to get resourceful in the match as well, and he ended up using a pinning move that I have never heard of before. So these are the kind of matches I want to see from AEW. Like, you can have the heavy spot fest and all that, or the matches that don't have the spot heavy matches, but matches that rely on big spots anyway. But you got to balance that with you have to balance it with storytelling, with really good storytelling, like we saw with MJF and Jungle Boy. Now again, there wasn't much story going in this match, like pre-Double or Nothing, but the more we got into the match, the more story elements that were introduced. Now, as for MJF, at some point in time, he has to get a title opportunity. I know he's still pretty young. I think he's in his early 20s. It's he's having match after match, he's adding some solid matches on his resume, and it's gonna come a point in time with his personality and his wrestling getting better, he's gonna have to get a title opportunity at some point in time. It's probably not gonna come right away, and probably not this year, but at some point in time, within the next year or so, he could get a title opportunity. So MJF is the winner of that match. Now, we get into the third match of the night, and this is coming early on. Cody Rhodes versus Lance Archer in the TNT Championship Finals. So Mike Tyson was there in person to present the TNT Championship and acted as a special guest enforcer. Now, there are a lot of mixed opinions about the design of the TNT Championship itself. I do have some thoughts on the championship belt, but I'm going to go into that once I'm done talking about this match. So, Lance Archer comes out with some random guy from the back. I guess he brought him so he can establish his dominance to Cody. He choke slams the guy in the ring while Jake Roberts is in the background dancing. Mike Tyson is there staring in awe, and Mike Tyson's shocked face is probably going to be used for meme material. So just letting you know, just laying it out there. But anyway, so the match begins. Lance Archer right away, literally right away, hits Cody with his reverse crucifix powerbomb finisher that he calls the blackout, at the very beginning. And before he could try to win the match that early, Cody smartly rolls out of the ring. And then Archer drags him back in the ring. But Cody tries to lock him in an armbar, but Archer pulls him back up, or Archer gets out of it. Then Cody tries hitting him, but it's doing nothing. And then he tries to go for the Cody cutter, but Lance Archer literally just shoulder tackles him midair. And so Lance Archer is pretty much reversing everything at every turn. And I'm just thinking, is this match literally gonna turn into John Cena versus Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam of 2014? Because I'm actually gonna go into that in my analysis. So Lance continues to dominate this match. Once they're at ringside again, once they're outside the ring again, Lance throws Cody from the lower stadium stands into ringside. So once they get back in the ring, there are some key points that I want to mention here. Lance Archer hit a version of Undertaker's Old School, except of transitioning into the usual the usual Undertaker thing right here, like the little hammer thing. Lance Archer does a moonsault. And then Archer exposed a turnbuckle corner, but ended up running into it. That briefly allowed Cody to get back in the match, but Lance Archer ended up throwing Cody out of the ring again. And once they got back in the ring, Lance Archer hit a rock bottom onto Cody for a 2 count. So at some point in the match, Cody and Lance Archer trade their managers like signature moves. Like Cody hit the DDT of Jake Roberts, while Lance Archer hit the spine buster of Arn Anderson. And then after that, this is where Cody Rhodes finally starts to rally a bit. So he hits the Cody counter. So he hits the Cody cutter for a 1 count. And then he hits a flurry of Rhodes' legacy moves, as the announcers pointed out. He hit the bionic elbow of Dusty Rhodes, and then the final reckoning of Dustin Rhodes, his brother, and then of course his signature Crossroads. But it all ended up being just for 2. So his next move was a Stinger Splash. He paid tribute to Sting, but Lance Archer responded right away with a chokeslam. So this is where things kind of turned a corner a bit, for both good and bad. So as Lance Archer was trying to go for his version of Old School again, Jake Roberts distracted the referee for some odd reason, and then while the referee was distracted, Arn Anderson cut down Archer, and he landed on one of the turnbuckles, on one of the ring posts. So that gives Cody a reprieve, but it also leads to the ejections of both Arn Anderson and Jake Roberts for ringside. So Mike Tyson approved of it. No joke. So at this point in time, Lance Archer waved Jake Roberts back, who brought his signature snake in the bag. Of course, we didn't know if it was a snake, but nonetheless, once he brings that bag, it's a snake. But Mike Tyson stepped in, took off his shirt, and scared him away. He was like, "Oh shit, Jake, Mike Tyson took off his shirt. He's gonna fight me. Oh my god." But anyway, Lance Archer tried to go for the blackout again, but Cody countered into 2 straight Crossroads to win the TNT Championship. Now, let's talk about the match first, and then I'll talk about the championship itself. Lance Archer was completely dominating this match before Cody got back into it. as Archer was dominating this match for like a good 5-10 minutes, I forgot how long this match actually was, but it was like a good 5-10 minutes. I thought this match was pretty much going to turn into like the main event of SummerSlam 2014. Because like as soon as Lance Archer hit his finishing move, that's when I thought this match was going to turn almost exactly like Lesnar versus Cena from SummerSlam 2014. But that didn't happen because 10 minutes like later, Cody got right back in the match. He rallied, like I mentioned. But then a couple minutes later, they kind of overbooked things. They had Arn Anderson and Jake Roberts like get involved in the match, and then they started to focus on the two when they didn't. Well, I guess it was for storyline, but it was kind of like unnecessary when it's like you're trying to introduce this this second title or this other title in the company, but it's kind of like it's kind of being overshadowed by the wrestling legends at ringside. But anyway, so once they got ejected, I don't know, Lance Archer kind of like lost his groove. It was like this dude was kind of like he's been presented as a dominant force for like ever since he debuted on Dynamite. I think it was like right like as soon as the pandemic started, like as soon as AEW started doing the pandemic tapings, and as soon as he lost Jake Roberts in this match, things started falling downhill for him. It was like he looked lost. He even tried calling Jake Roberts back, and then he was like he was kind of unsure what to do without Jake Roberts there. Again, I don't know what Lance Archer's wrestling background was prior to this, but it's like if he's that good as people claim he is, then I'm pretty sure he could do fine without Jake Roberts. So I don't know. Cody winning here, I don't know, 50-50. It's, you know, I for one, I could say it's like Cody owns part of the company, owns part of AEW, so I don't know, he can book himself to win this match. I mean, then again, when it comes to the storyline, he's lost a lot of big pay-per-view matches. He lost to Jericho at Full Gear. He went to a draw at Fyter Fest. I'm trying to think what else. And then leading up to this match, he also... Oh, yeah, and at Revolution, he also lost to MJF. And then leading up to this match, hit Dustin Rhodes, got beaten the shit out of by Lance Archer, and then Brandy got the snake treatment from Jake Roberts. So I guess the story here was like Cody finally getting a big win after not getting one for like months. I mean, not a bad match, but it was like, I don't know, expecting Archer to win. And that's all I can say, pretty much. Now, let's talk about the championship. Let's talk about the TNT title. I mean, it doesn't look as bad as people are saying it does. I mean, the thing I like about this title is the side plate designs. It kind of gives that old school feel of a wrestling belt. The thing I don't like about WWE belts nowadays, they all look too similar from one another. It's like sometimes I can't tell what title's which anymore because they look and feel too similar to one another. In AEW, like some belts are hit and miss. The world title, it's nice looking. The women's title it needs a redesign really bad, and the world tag team title, it's all right. this title, now, the one criticism I can get is the TNT title, it's two there. It's what I mean by two there, it's like there's too much I feel like there's too much emphasis on like TNT. It feels like a product placement. It literally feels like a product placement for the title, like the logo being there. Hold on one second. Gotta adjust that real quick. There we go. Yeah, it just feels like a product placement for the title. So I don't know. It's like I do like the other thing I like about this belt is the red strap. Unlike with the Universal title, I feel like because it matches with the silver of the silver of the silver plates of the TNT title. I feel like the red strap goes fine with this. I know Tony Schiavone mentioned at the beginning of this match that this title was incomplete because of the pandemic. Which, by the way, kudos to Tony for actually mentioning that. He also mentioned that gold plating will be put on the belt once the belt makers can return to business. But in all honesty, I wouldn't honestly mind. I wouldn't honestly mind keeping the red strap and like modifying the TNT belt like a little bit. I actually kind of dig the red and silver on the TNT belt. It's like, you know, differentiate it with like completely differentiate it from the World Championship, like the rest of the championships. Make it really different. Make this belt really different. And like, I guess, like, I know Lance Archer could have been a really good first champion, but I guess they gave it to Cody because like they need a champion. I need someone to legitimize the belt like they did with Jericho. And Cody, like, since he's kind of like a founder at AEW, can be a founder for this belt too, to legitimize it. So, we'll see what the belt, once it's completed, looks like. But as for the match, I mean, it was alright. Something I won't go back and watch, but I mean, it was alright. Next up, we got some filler matches. Because we got like 3 straight matches where we got like a lot, where we got a lot of good stuff. First we got Penelope Ford versus Chris Statlander. We got that match after the TNT title match. Hold on, sorry, I'm trying to catch my breath here. So originally this match was supposed to be Britt Baker instead of Penelope Ford. But as I discussed Friday, she was injured in that tag team match on Dynamite, in that spot where Statlander and Hikaru Shida threw Nyla Rhodes onto Britt Baker's bent knee in the corner. And then I discussed on Friday of how severe the injury could possibly be. Brian Alvarez and Dave Meltzer mentioned that it could be a serious knee injury. Alvarez even mentioned the possibility of a torn ACL. But on Saturday night, AEW completely debunked it, that possibility, and thankfully, from the sounds of it, it's not as serious as it sounds. So, prior to this match, between Statlander and Penelope, it's like I keep botching her name. That's why I keep stopping. Sorry. It's like, Alex Marvez is interviewing one of AEW's doctors to give an update on Britt Baker. They inform us viewers that Britt Baker has a tibia fracture and a knee ligament tear. So they also mentioned that the injury is not as bad as the high maintenance patient. Whatever that, like, I guess they're trying to play that into a storyline, but they're trying to say the injury is not as serious. So Britt Baker, they also mentioned that Britt Baker is going to announce her return title on the Wednesday Dynamite on Wednesday. So I also have here from Tony Khan's conference call from Double or Nothing that Britt Baker's expected to be out for about a month, so more than a month, 6 weeks. And then there's another note up here about Rey Fenix. I forgot to mention that Rey Fenix was supposed to be in that casino battle ladder match. I keep mixing it up. Rey Fenix of the Lucha Brothers were supposed to be in the ladder match earlier in the night, but as I mentioned on Friday as well, he was injured. He was pulled out last minute and replaced by Joey Janela. But Tony Khan said he should be back soon as well. But as for Britt Baker, she is out for at least 6 weeks. So it's a good thing that this the injury that Britt Baker suffered on Wednesday, last Wednesday, is not as severe as initially reported by Alvarez and Meltzer. So again, never trust them. Even though it derails her heel momentum, I don't think I think she'll be back like as if she was never gone. If it's like, I think she'll be able to regain it like quite quickly, and all I can say is I hope she has a speedy recovery. You know, I just hope that she's like, it doesn't lead to any other serious injuries. So as for the match between Ford and Statlander, not too much happening here. It was kind of like a break from the other 3 matches. So the only things I took note of here were like Statlander like taking control of Ford during after Ford dominated the first half of this match, and Statlander taking out Kip Sabian, who, by the way, completely oversold his injuries from the earlier ladder match. But anyway, Chris Statlander won this match with the Big Bang Theory. And yeah, that was your rest break match for one of them at least. So I mean, it was all right, but yeah, not really too much happened. At this point, it's like they need to start delving into Statlander's character more, because it's like the more weeks pass by, it's like the more I start caring less about Statlander, and Statlander needs to start having like less sloppier wrestling matches, because like there are some points in time where I see a Chris Statlander match on TV, and it's like sometimes they are good matches and sometimes they're just very sloppy matches. And I like Chris Statlander, I really do. She's like her, Britt Baker, and yeah, I think that it's those two. Those are my two like women that I like in AEW. But it's like Statlander really needs, like, I don't know what's like stopping her from succeeding in the ring. So hopefully she can get it together. But anyway, the next rest break match before we started getting into the real shit was Shawn Spears going up against Dustin Rhodes. Now, prior to this match, as most of you may know that watch Dynamite on a weekly basis, Dustin Rhodes was beaten to a pulp in that semifinal match in that TNT semifinal match by Lance Archer. He was beaten, bloodied, and he passed out to that EDT claw that put him away, and he wasn't seen since then. So on the Wednesday prior to Double or Nothing, Shawn Spears gave this special report, and since he didn't have a match at Double or Nothing, he elected to make one against Dustin Rhodes. So the match comes. He's not in his ring gear. He's decked out in a suit for reasons, and he gave Dustin Rhodes an opportunity to come out before he was interrupted by his music, but it was just Shawn Spears trolling him, and he demanded Aubrey Edwards to award Spears the win by forfeit. So, in the midst of the count, Dustin's music hit again, but Brandy came out, and from behind, Dustin Rhodes attacked Shawn Spears. And then throughout the match, it was just, I don't know what the hell happened from there. Dustin ripped off Spears' suit one by one, as the match wore on. Shawn Spears had brief offense, but not too much. It's once Spears had some offense, he tried to whip Dustin Rhodes with his belt, but he ended up having his pants ripped off. And then we ended up seeing Shawn Spears' bare ass on pay-per-view. And Aubrey Edwards' reaction in the background to said bare ass was just, admittedly kind of funny. She was like, "Oh!" So, throughout the rest of this match, until Shawn Spears finally pulled up his boxers, we saw Butt Crack City. We saw Shawn Spears' Butt Crack City. And once he finally pulled up his boxers, the cameraman focused on what was on the front of his boxers. They focused on his dick. What the fuck are you doing, cameraman? They saw a headshot of his manager, Tully Blanchard, plastered onto the dick of his boxers. So that, okay. Alright. I mean, no homo, but Shawn Spears, what the fuck? And cameraman, what the fuck? Why, you're zooming in on that. But anyway, Dustin hit the final reckoning on Shawn Spears and put him away. And can we really call this a match? I mean, I would just consider this a segment. I mean, I feel like this could have happened on a random episode of Dynamite, but in my opinion, but yeah, it's just I would just say it's a thing that happened. Next up, we had the AEW Women's Championship match. Nyla Rose and Hikaru Shida went up in there were no disqualifications and no countouts, but it's technically a no holds barred match. By my standards, it's a no holds barred match. So some of my highlights included this: Nyla Rose tried to bring in a table early on, but was stopped by Shida. Shida, for her efforts, was thrown into a poker chip. Not a poker chip, a poker table. So later on, Shida then ran Nyla Rose from the lower stands and hit a running knee onto Rose into the poker chip, the large set of poker chips. And then this is where Nyla Rose's kendo stick would become a key point in this match. Actually, it was a large point of the match very often. Sheeta reintroduced the kendo stick right after she did the poker chip spot. She hit a brain buster on the stick for a 2 count. Nyla Rose hit a flying knee onto a rope hanging top rope hanging Sheeta for 2. And then later, Nyla Rose hit a power bomb through a table that didn't break. It only broke like a small portion of it. I don't know. How can they? I don't know. I don't want to get to that territory. But anyway, then Hikaru Shida hit an avalanche Falcon Arrow onto the kendo stick for a 2 count, and then the finish came when Shida hit Rose in the head with the kendo stick and finished the match with the running knee strike to surprisingly become the AEW Women's Champion. I mean, here's the thing. Shida was the number 1 contender for a long time. She was number 1 in the AEW rankings. And to be fair, hold on. When they give the title to Nyla Rose, was it Full Gear that they gave the title to Nyla Rose? Nyla Rose. Not Byla Rose. Nyla Rose. Oh yeah, it was just in February. It was just in February where she defeated Riho on Dynamite to win the championship, and she only had 1 successful title defense against Chris Statlander at Revolution. So that's kind of weird that they took it off of Nyla Rose that early on. Maybe she could, maybe she just doesn't want to compete during the pandemic. I don't know. I'm not sure why they took it off, but okay. Maybe they gave Shida the title to honor Hana Kimura, but I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I don't know what AEW wants to do. But either way, now that Shida's the women's champion, I just hope that this leads to more long-term stuff, you know? It's like we had Riho, we had Nyla Rose, now we have Shida as the women's world champion. Can we finally get a long-term reign here? Because it's like the AEW Women's Division is still very lacking. It's like there's still no commitment to this division. Outside of Shida and Rose, who could still have another match. There's also Britt Baker and Chris Statlander. There's no one else left in this women's division. So if AEW really wants Hikaru Shida to succeed, especially after she won the title on Saturday night, they need to commit. They really need to commit to not just her, but the entire women's division. And they need to start doing that Wednesday. So I wanted to talk about some of the highlights from Jon Moxley versus Brody Lee, but I didn't get to watch the full match before tonight. I only got to see the end of it. So I will touch on that just a little bit. And I do want to talk a little bit about this. Since when was this world title match between the two a no disqualification match? It's like they were brawling everywhere in the arena. I guess in like title matches they're allowed to do in all the title matches in AEW. It doesn't matter which title it is. You're allowed to like brawl. Like you're allowed to disregard the traditional wrestling rules in a title match. I don't know. It was weird, you know, because they were brawling in the lower stadium stands. They were throwing each other into the fake poker cards, and then there was this really cool spot in the end though, where Jon Moxley hit the paradigm shift onto Brody Lee through the entrance ramp. So I actually liked that spot. I actually screamed "Holy shit!" that was actually the first holy shit moment since I think since last month. So not that too long ago, but still. So I actually screamed holy shit during that moment because like it was so sudden. Like it was really so sudden. And then I thought they were gonna call a no contest there, and that would have been it. But John Moxley emerged from the rubble, and so did Brody Lee, who was busted open. And then Moxley hit another paradigm shift, but and another one, but Brody Lee kept kicking out, and Moxley had to get resourceful. And this is kind of what I liked about Moxley. It's like when he's expanding his moveset. So what he did was he knocked out Brody Lee with a rear naked choke, and once Brody Lee's arm gave out or was down, the referee called the match, and yeah, Moxley is still the AEW World Champion. So I gotta go back and watch the full match. I know there's a lot that I missed, but I don't know. Maybe my mind will change when I see the full match. But I think down the line somewhere, Brody Lee should get another match with John Moxley. I mean, they going into this match, they had to like AEW like kind of book themselves in the corner like WWE often does. It's like they introduced Brody Lee as the leader of the Dark Order, but for some reason they go after John Moxley right away. It's like Brody Lee is red hot in the standards of the hardcore wrestling community. And it's like you right away like go after John Moxley. So it's kind of like Seth Rollins versus Bray the Fiend at Hell in a Cell all over again. It's like you're booking yourselves into a corner. So luckily for AEW, it's like they kind of got out of that corner by like having Brody Lee put on like what people are saying a great match and not losing cleanly at all. He lost on a TKO by submission. But it's like we don't like after tonight, especially with the big development that happened in Tony Khan's like conference call, then yeah, we don't know what's next for the Dark Order. We know what's next for John Moxley. I'm gonna get into that like soon, but we don't know what's next for Brody Lee in the Dark Order. So yeah, I'm not sure what they're gonna do next. All right, now that we get to the main event, yeah, there was a big debate on which match was gonna main event tonight's Double or Nothing, or Saturday night's Double or Nothing, and I think there can no longer be a debate of the match that was gonna main event. And that was Matt Hardy and the Elite versus the Inner Circle in the Stadium Stampede match. Now, for this match, there was so much that happened. I'm only going to share my personal highlights from this match. Now, keep in mind, like with the past cinematic matches that we saw in the last month, like with from WWE with the Firefly Funhouse match, the Boneyard match, the Gargano Ciampa match from like that same week, and then the Money in the Bank corporate ladder match. Like people didn't know how to feel about the Stadium Stampede match, and even after Saturday night, people still split on this match. So it's dependent on like you, the viewer, how you find this, like how you find this match. Like, did you enjoy this match? Did you like this match? Did you dislike this match? Did you hate this match? That is entirely up to you, because there was so much that happened in this match that I can't make that judgment for you. I can only make a judgment for myself, but like, you have to watch it for yourself. Everyone has their own tastes, everyone has their own preferences, but at the end of the day, it's just like with the Money in the Bank, like with the Boneyard, like with the Firefly Funhouse, like with the cinematic between Gargano and Ciampa. Everyone's taste is gonna be different. So anyway, let's get into some of the match highlights, because there's like so much that I can dissect here. So these are my personal ones. So the Inner Circle and Matt Hardy and the Elite, except for Adam Page, they already start this Stadium Stampede like strong by coming out to football themed entrances, and Justin Roberts is doing the announcing via voiceovers here. So it's good that Justin Roberts it's good to hear from Justin Roberts again, and at least we know that he still has it's good to know that he's still working with the company. So the Inner Circle, it's like they're taking this Stadium Stampede, they're fully committed to it by wearing football gear, and then we got and then the teams start fighting in the middle of the field, and then it starts spilling across the field, and then this is where things started really getting out of hand. When they start doing their own separate thing. Hangman Adam Page finally shows up to this match via his traditional horse. And then he goes after Sammy Guevara. I mean, who else, man? Who else would you go after other than Sammy Guevara? So he chases Sammy Guevara all over the Jacksonville Jaguars Stadium on his horse. But later it shows that he ended up going to the bar. Yep, Adam Page, of course, went to the bar. What a great teammate. Then later in the match is divided by individual segments, like individual brawls. So most of it is focused on Matt Hardy, Santana, and Ortiz. Matt Hardy, Santana, and Ortiz are battling all over the stadium, and they eventually make their way to the top of the Jaguar Stadium and the signature stadium pool. Yeah, the one feature, the one good thing about the Jaguars, except for Minshew Mania. Where was Minshew? Where was Gardner Minshew? We didn't even get that in this match. But we did get something Jaguars related, though. I'll talk about that later. So they go to the signature Jaguars Stadium pool, and they throw Matt Hardy in it. And Santana, I think it was either Santana or Ortiz. It was one of them that couldn't swim, even though it's 3 freaking feet of water, and they couldn't swim. And these are grown ass men, by the way. It's this match is not be taken seriously. So they attempt to drown Matt Hardy, which was kind of odd to do, especially when there's this certain situation that happened this week. But I think this was taped beforehand, so we're gonna digress the situation. So they're using the pool as the lake of reincarnation, of sorts, the pool of reincarnation. So they're using the pool as their own version of the lake of reincarnation back from TNA. So Matt first comes back as his early Hardy days. Not Hardy days, sorry. his early version of the Hardy Boys, back from the Attitude Era. So he does his original Hardy Boys taunt, but Santana Ortiz drop him back into the pool, and then while they're doing that, the camera focuses underwater, and Hardy's doing the pose. Hardy's doing the pose underwater. You can't make this stuff up. And then they reincarnate Matt Hardy as Matt Hardy version 1, or in AEW terms, the first version of Matt Hardy. And then he starts doing his catchphrases from that gimmick of Matt Hardy. And then they put him back in the pool, and then they successfully drown him. So they get out of the pool. Santana gets out of the pool, but Ortiz is still trying to get out because, he can't swim, even though it's 3 feet. And then Hardy somehow gets out of the pool, like successfully revives himself. He's back to his normal self, the broken Matt Hardy. And it's like he's now out of the pool, and while Ortiz is still trying to get out. And actually, before they get out of the pool, Matt Hardy pulls them back in. And then moments later, it's like Matt Hardy drags Ortiz, and then puts him under the bell that the Jaguars use for football games, and literally rings it right under him. So he's like literally shook because his ears are ringing. So now Matt Hardy ties up Ortiz into the chair of wheels, as he likes to call it, and Ortiz literally taken out of the match, because now he can't help his partners. But then, as you would notice, like as Matt is now taking care of Santana, Ortiz starts rolling in the chair. And I'm not sure where he was going, but it was probably somewhere not so well. So eventually, Santana gets locked into an ice freezer, in the same manner that Matt Hardy got locked into a ice freezer a couple weeks beforehand on Dynamite. So that's the end of Matt Hardy's segment. Then we get to Adam Page and Jake Hager. Jake Hager finds Adam Page's horse, and then he knows that he's in the bar. So he finds Adam Page alone in the bar, and instead of attacking him right away, he actually sits down to have a drink with them. But instead of just chill, like having a drink, like just drinking a little bit of the bubbly, Adam Page attacks him like feigns having a chill chat with him and attacks him, but Hager uses his power to dominate Adam Page. But eventually Kenny Omega joins in, like saves Adam Page. The two use the little bit of the bubbly to take out Jake Hager, and Page hits a buckshot lariat onto Jake Hager and tosses it to toss him over the bar table. So that effectively takes out Jake Hager. So 3 of the Inner Circle members have been wiped out. And before we get to the next segment, Adam Page and Kenny Omega share a drink, but technically not a drink for Omega because he's just having a glass of milk. And then Page, it's just like his usual beer. Then we get back to the football field. Sammy Guevara and I'm not sure if it was Matt or Nick Jackson. I have to double check here. I think it was Matt Jackson. They ended up. Oh yeah, I think it was Matt Jackson. Matt Jackson ended up taking Sammy Guevara, he ended up suplexing him 100 yards, freaking 100 yards, onto the across the field, and the commentators were eating this up, and it was after that happened, Matt Jackson celebrated, but the referee flagged him. The ref flagged him for excessive celebration, something that you don't get flagged for in the NFL anymore, unless if you do it way too much. So what did Matt Jackson do? Super kick the referee. So apparently in wrestling you can get flagged for excessive celebration. What the fuck? But things started getting even way wackier. Things started getting even way wackier with Jericho's antics. So Chris Jericho is brawling with Nick Jackson, whose ribs were taped up because of the injury. So Jericho is playing around with the field cones, and he even hit Nick Jackson with the chain marker. In football, you use that to mark first downs and stuff. And then later on, the Jaguars team mascot shows up out of nowhere, and you know what Jericho does? He hits the Judas effect. He knocks out the Jaguars team mascot with the Judas effect. Damn it, Jericho! That mascot has a family. Damn it! But anyway, and then a couple minutes later, Jericho knocks down Nick Jackson, and here's where this is one of my funniest moments of the match. Jericho goes to pin Nick Jackson, and when he gets when he only gets a 2 count, he literally throws a challenge flag. I'm not joking. He has a red challenge flag. He throws the challenge flag down, in front of Aubrey Edwards, and he challenges the 2 count. You're challenging. Now we go from penalty flags in wrestling to challenge flags. All right, we had football crossing over to wrestling. Now we're having wrestling crossing over to football. I dig it. I dig it. So Jericho challenges the call. So Aubrey Edwards goes into the replay booth, which is actually the medical tent. So they go into so Aubrey Edwards go into the replay booth. Jericho goes in with her, which you can't do in the NFL. You can't casually look at the replay. You can't look at a coach's challenge when you challenge the play. That's freaking cheating. So Jericho loses the challenge, and he's angry at this, and so he's pissed. But eventually Matt Jackson catches up to Jericho, hits him with a super kick, and then the Young Bucks set up a table, put Jericho on it. Matt Jackson, I think it was Matt or Nick Jackson, that runs down all the way down the stadium stands, down the stadium stairs, and jumps off the stands onto Jericho through a table. And that effectively knocked out Jericho. And then before we get onto the final segment, Hangman Adam Page just casually walked on with the line marker painter and painted Jericho with line paint. So that just took out Jericho from the match, and now we get into the final stretch. So Sammy Guevara is crawling all over the field, trying to get to his teammates, and then all of a sudden the field sprinklers turn on, and it wakes him up. And Sammy Guevara. So in the best attempt of a 40-yard dash, Sammy Guevara goes Naruto running across the football field. This time he does get away from the golf cart, and he climbs up the stadium stand. So Omega and Hardy follow him. The rest of the Elite obviously is on the field, just watching them. Guevara eventually gets cornered. He fights them off for a little bit, and he's about to end Kenny Omega, but he is distracted by a drone by the name of Neon One. So it's basically one of Broken Matt Hardy's other drones. So this Neon One drone comes back to get payback on Matt Hart on the Inner Circle, and especially Sammy Guevara for destroying Vanguard 1. And so this distracts Guevara enough to get a twist of fate and a knee trigger or a V trigger. And then that sets up for the big spot. The big match ending spot. So Kenny Omega from, I don't know how high it is. I think it's like 50 feet. 50 feet from the stadium stands. He hits a one-winged angel onto, like, hits Guevara with the one-winged angel off the stadium stands. I think it was like 50 feet into plywood to win the match for the Elite. And if you watch this match, it's like, again, you're gonna have, like, you're either gonna love it, you're gonna hate it. So here are my thoughts on it. Was it silly? Yeah, of course. I was laughing my ass off. Was it serious? At sometimes, yeah, it was serious. But I will say, we needed this match. I'd say we needed this match. This was a match that we needed to get away from, not just from the pandemic, but from the terrible news that we got this week. Like, the string of terrible, like, tragic news that we got from this week. And once again, like, AEW gave us a reason to stay positive, you know? And I will say, like, out of all the cinematic matches, I'd say, like, AEW gave me a lot of laughs, like a lot of fun, and like how long was it? Like 45 minutes that it gave me, like the 45 minutes the match was put on, at least in my opinion. And I will admit, for a good while, it was the most creative AEW has been in terms of, like, you know, big spots, and they actually balanced the big spots with the story elements in this match, like Matt getting his revenge on Santana and Ortiz, Omega and Page getting back on the same page, and then you had, like, throughout the match, each member of the Inner Circle going down one by one in both serious and silly ways. So you had a mix of both, of seriousness and silly in the match. But again, this match had a lot of things going for it, and there were some other weird takeaways from it. At first, I wasn't able to tell if this match was, like, live or pre-recorded, because here's the thing: it's like this match was shot at night. It was nighttime when this match happened, and it was like, of course, like, AEW happened at Double or Nothing happened at night on the East Coast, and it was very convincing that this match was happening live, like everything was happening on the spot. But I figured that this match was happening, like, pre-recorded, like this was done beforehand when they got to Matt Hardy's portion of the match, because, like, there was no way in hell Matt Hardy was able to change clothes, like, in the pool, like, live. But Yeah. But then again, in fairness, you never know with Matt Hardy. And then throughout the match, like I feel like the commentary losing their shit, like the many of us. And then when we were like in the stadium, like when we had points in the stadium, like when there was the very small crowd, I feel like that really helped too. You know, it helped us stay engaged consistently throughout the match. And then as for the length, I felt like this was almost an hour. Like I really did, because like not only was there so much going on, but it was just like it felt very fast. Like unlike with some of the cinematic matches, like with the Boneyard match, the Funhouse match actually felt pretty fast. Like this one as well. But like with the Boneyard match, the Money in the Bank match, and heck, even the Last Man Standing match between Edge and Orton, this match felt really fast, even though it was like almost an hour. Like it was like, I think it was like minus the entrances, like over 30 minutes, over 35 minutes, going into 40. So I mean, who cares? But there were like, because there was so much going on, it actually went by pretty quickly. So yeah, those are my other smaller takeaways. But I will say this. In the end, we didn't like. I know everyone was wanting blood and guts, for these teams. Like this would have been a way to have some closure, for this feud, and I think that this would have been a great, like, blood and guts would have been a fine match, for these teams to close off their feud. But given the circumstances, that I don't know if we will. Even if we don't, I think this serves as a really great alternative. The Stadium Stampede, like, we didn't know going in if it was going to be a good alternative, but it ended up being a great alternative. Again, you saw a lot of good story elements like being brought in. Like the Inner Circle ended up being taken out one by one, and the Elite winning here, it just served as justice. They finally got their cake. They finally ate their cake. They got their justice. Against the Inner Circle, they finally got their W. For all the months of abuse that started way back on the debut episode of Dynamite. So now I think it's time for everyone involved to move on. Because a lot of loose ends were tied up, and a lot of loose ends were tied up. Like the Ascension with Paige and Omega, they seem to be on good terms again, and at least for one night, Adam Page and Matt Jackson, they celebrated without any issue. So I think it's now time for both teams to to not butt heads, at least for now. At least, yeah. I would suggest them not butting heads again on this Wednesday Dynamite, and not for the foreseeable future. Let's see what they can do away from each other, for a very long while. Not just heading into the summer, but for at least the rest of the year. So that was Double or Nothing. Overall, pretty good show. Like, again, a couple of downers, but overall, this was at least something to take our minds away from the tragic news that happened this weekend. Before we go, some post-show news from Tony Khan's conference call on Saturday. So we know that there will be another pay-per-view happening, actually two, All Out in September, and surprisingly, which is good surprising, Fyter Fest But we don't know when exactly that's happening. We'll know that on Dynamite this Wednesday. Speaking of Fyter Fest, Tony Khan mentioned that Fyter Fest was originally supposed to take place in London, which would have marked AEW's international debut. But the coronavirus pandemic prevented it from happening. And in some breaking news of sorts regarding the AEW World title, Brian Cage, the winner of the Casino Ladder match, will use his or will be granted his guaranteed world title match against Jon Moxley at Fyter Fest. So we are getting that match straight away. And that's bad news for Brody Lee and very good news for Brian Cage. So we will see how they proceed with that match going forward. So again, I would have imagined Brody would have at least gotten another match, but I guess that would have made him a lot weaker. But I guess AEW wants to protect Brody Lee and the Dark Order, and they're just gonna try to build him back up. Maybe have him go after the TNT title. And as for Brian Cage, they gotta do it. It's like the same. I feel like it's the same situation with Brody Lee and Moxley. Here's this red hot guy that just debuted, and now he straight away he's getting his world championship match just as soon as he debuts. They have to be careful here. They as much as they want to make Moxley's opponents look strong in defeat, it's like they have to be careful not repeating that formula over and over again, because it's and of course the follow-up, because if the follow-up is bad, then it's like the looking strong in defeat won't mean anything. But those are just my opinions. But again, it's a good thing that Double or Not it's a good thing that Fyter Fest is still happening. When that will be exactly, I don't know. But I'm looking at either at least July, at least late June, July at the most. But anyway, that's it for Dylan Lasagna Live tonight. That was a lot to digest with Double or Nothing, and thank you all for joining me on this late Sunday night for my recap and review of Double or Nothing. If I were to rate on a 1 to 10 scale, I would give it a 7.5. I really like this. I think the Stampede match, the Stadium Stampede match, and the what match was it? And the world title match, if once I go back and watch it, really carried the show. And then there were some good shocker moments here and there, but it was everything else was kind of icing on the cake, But I would give it 7.5 out of 10. So 7.5, 8 out of 10. So pretty good show overall. Let's see what they do with the momentum going forward. But anyway, that's it for Dylan Lasagna Live tonight. I'm gonna get out of here. There will be a podcast on Friday as usual, and I will see you all then. Make sure you like this podcast episode, and if you're not already, make sure you're subscribed. Turn on your notifications so you'll know what's going on with the channel. And if you want to, follow me on social media at Dylan Lasagna, and always be delicious. And let me grab my outro music. And I will see you all next time. Take care.